what is your real mission in your heart, and how can you do that and also, of course, make money for your business? And we always operated under the belief that the more we can serve, the more our business will be profitable.
You're listening to Copper and Heat, the podcast exploring the unspoken rules and traditions of restaurants. I'm Katie Osuna. This is the last theme in our third season, Pre-Shift, getting you tips, tools, and resources to navigate the challenges of working in hospitality. In this last theme, we have 3 episodes, each with a different entrepreneur talking about the challenges they faced in starting their own thing, and how they faced those challenges. In this pre-shift, we're talking with Jazmin Villalta and Enrique Soriano from Cocina del Corazon in Oakland about how grassroots growth has allowed them to thrive while sticking to their values. Chef Enrique has been cooking professionally for most of his life. His parents own a food business, so he's always been helping out.
That's kind of how I started my journey with my folks' taco truck here in East Oakland. When I was 18, that just really gave me something to do. Really was like, okay, I'm really good at food. Coming from Oakland and the background that I have, we were raised in West Oakland. Really, I guess you could call it a ghetto. It's not so much anymore, but it was when I was growing up. And so my options were pretty slim. I had already gotten in trouble a couple of times, but I guess cooking was something that I felt really passionate about, and I felt something that I can keep doing. So I went to culinary school with always the same mindset to, at the end goal, have a place of my own. So out of culinary school, I went to Sequoia National Park, and that's where I kind of was like, all right, this is going to be where I want to learn everything.
While he was working in restaurants, he started to notice a lot of issues with the restaurant industry that he just couldn't get on board with.
From there, I came to San Francisco. I started working different restaurants. And, it just seeing the restaurant industry really I learned a lot. It was really great. I love the passion that I see when I meet different chefs who really are passionate as you are about food. And that really exists really strong in San Francisco. But also what really exists really strong in San Francisco is the abuse of that passion. I'll tell you, oh, you're really passionate about working. You'll come in 2 hours early on your dime, because it's so much work. And you do it because, you feel like everybody else does it. You see like, it almost comes like a war mentality because you're in the trenches with your brothers and sisters, and you want to help them out in this battle. You want to succeed and finish at the end of the night and be like, all right, we're done with all these tickets. We made it. We had a solid night. All the food came out. We had no problems. And that involves coming in 2 hours beforehand on your own dime. And that's just one of the few things that happens, as well as chefs can take advantage by investors or even chefs can take advantage by other chefs who have their businesses. And it's a crazy industry, and it really disheartened me, and I had to leave it.
Enrique decided to work in catering instead, which was a lot better, but he always wanted to work for himself. So while he still had another full-time job, he started his own thing on the side. Jazmin is his partner. They started dating before he started doing pop-ups and catering on his own. Even though Jazmin wasn't from the restaurant industry, she wanted to help with the business.
I was seeing Enrique work his catering job, cater on the weekends, and not just cater, like he would write the invoices, he'd write the proposals, he would do everything from A to Z for his events. And being a girlfriend that just really, cared about my partner and also seeing the love and dedication behind it, and seeing that it wasn't a transactional thing. It was like, it was all this love behind the work he was doing, and seeing him so tired at the end of the night, but so happy at the same time because he's like doing his own thing.
It helped me sleep.
It really it lit a light bulb for me, and I'm like, oh, well, I have a lot of skills that I've acquired through working for other people, and I like not having to do what people, I want to do my own thing too. And that's when we just joined forces, and I was like, look, we can make this situation real pro. I can make a logo on Canva. I'll get us a Google Voice and a Gmail, and we are good to go. And we pretty much, I infiltrated his business in that way, created the logo and cards. And I think like the next week we catered a wedding.
In order to build their business, they both had a lot to learn.
I did a lot of Googling, and my mother was a wealth of knowledge. But I did a lot of connecting with the city of Oakland. They have a business development center in Oakland in Franco Gawa Plaza, and I think they've been super helpful. And then the whole taxing part is really difficult, but what's really helpful is that the BCC wants to help you. And so I found that a lot of people are scared to call them and to be like, hey, I'm having trouble, or hey, can I get an extension because I don't know what to do. I quickly found out that, calling them and being open and honest, like the first time I was running a little behind, I told them, hey, this is my first time doing this. I need a little bit more time. I just can't figure this out. And they're allowed to give you tax advice because that's what they do. Free information that you would have to pay a CPA or somebody.
Being resourceful is my personal superpower. And I love like going through little like rabbit holes of like, oh, look at this organization. Oh, and then if you go on their website, then they have this, like going through these little trails and finding people and organizations that want to help small businesses succeed became like my thing. I was like looking for all these classes, and the small business program through Bank of the West has a program called Operation Hope. And that was the first official business class we took. Like it was our date. Together, we'd go together, and sit in class and talk about our business with other Oakland entrepreneurs. And that really paved the way for us to see the value in these classes and resources. And, it went from Operation Hope's program, the SBA program. We've done some cohorts through the ICA fund. And for us, that gave us so much support that we otherwise don't think we would have known about, but it did take us having to seek these resources because unfortunately, it's not all the time that the resource will come to you.
Most important to them was that they grow their business in a way that was ethical and sustainable, not just environmentally, but for the people that work for them and for their community.
I saw my parents build their business up, from ground up. My mother, mostly by herself, in the grassroots style, with no funding, straight bootstrap, everything she did, she built up from scratch. And that's kind of the same process that I took the business as well. We started, little, catering small events here and there part-time while I was still working. Finally, once we started garnering more attention and people kept, coming back saying, hey, can you do this party for me again? Or, hey, somebody told me this about you. I left my job and started going at it full time. That was the next phase. I call it like the R&D phase, because at that point I still hadn't had, all these official, my official LLC or even anything with the health department or anything like that yet. So because it was still part-time, but once I started going full-time, where we started working at a pop-up, and that's really where we dialed down our model and started to secure a little bit more revenue to put in for our applications for our licenses, for the health department, to put in for the commissary kitchen. And the pop-ups then, once we got, all the licensing out of the way, we started to purchase our own equipment, our own tents. And it's a slow process when you don't start off with like funding or with investors. But I feel like this kind of grassroots way of going allows you more control and to be more true to your vision. And not only that, I feel like it allowed us to survive the pandemic, because if we would have been wrapped up with either investors or with like a lease or with like, something bigger, we wouldn't have made it. Our overhead is very low because of our situation. So we were able to chuck and jive really well with the situation. And I think that's one of the challenges.
Yeah, and something I wanted to add about, how can a small business owner be profitable and also do more, like I feel like that's a solid foundation for entrepreneurship. It's like, what is your real mission in your heart, and how can you do that and also of course make money for your business? And we always operated under the belief that the more we can serve, the more our business will be profitable. And even when we were doing our sustainable high-end catering event, we always operated under like a sliding scale model for every church, every school, every nonprofit. If you were a multimillionaire, having us cater for you, you were definitely going to pay like the price, right? Like all the upcharges, all the setup fees, because we want to obviously make money. But that always allowed us to say, oh, a community event for 400 people and your budget is $1,000. Yeah, let's do it. Like, and we'll stay extra hour, like we never once had any hesitation to provide for the community. I think that's the best glue for our small business, knowing that it wasn't just a money transaction. It all had a deeper meaning and a deeper connection to Mother Nature, the sustainability that we wanted to create in the catering industry, and the difference we wanted to make within the community. You guys can come check us out at cocinadelcorazon.com and on Instagram at Cocina del Corazon Oakland.
We'll link to Cocina del Corazon in our notes, so please check them out. Thank you so much for listening to Pre-Shift, our third season. We're going to be taking a little break for a few months as we work on what's next, so now would be a great time to go back and listen to any of our episodes that you might have missed. We'd love to hear about what you'd like to hear for season 4. So follow us in your podcast app and find us on various social channels at Copper and Heat, and send us a message on our website or in our DMs. Copper and Heat is a member of the One Star Podcast Network, the first podcast network dedicated to representing voices and stories from the service industry, with shows created by service industry workers. Definitely check out our website, onestarpodcastnetwork.com. There are a ton of really great shows to check out, like Sidework Podcast and Modern Waiter. Pre-Shift, the third season of Copper and Heat, is produced by me, Katie Osuna. Our story editor is Rachel Palmer. Our sound engineer and composer is Ricardo Osuna. Thank you all so much for listening. We'll be back soon.